Hi Nanny, this is Michelle and I'm going to try to do a video teaching lesson of how to make potato soup. I'm going to have to stop my camera and make it so I can do some of the steps, not like the professionals, I don't have it all laid out, but just wanted to let you know what's going on and I'm going to show you what we're doing. Hi, so this is step one, and know that when you're using potatoes for potato soup, it does not matter if you use russet or Yukon Gold or just yellow potatoes. The good news about these potatoes is I generally don't peel them first, but as it's cooking up, I will kind of take a fork and take the skin away and out of it because we don't like to eat it, but some people do. And with the russets, I do peel them and then I cut them up into different sizes. Like I'm crying, but I'm not. I have just cut up some onions. So I wanted to show you this. If I can do this, let's see. Uh-oh, how do I flip it around? I'm gonna flip it around this way. So I've cut up some russet potatoes and some Yukon Gold. I cut them up small today because I'm in a hurry kind of to get the dinner going, but usually I make them a little bit bigger. I don't like them all the same size. I like some bigger because then when you're eating the soup, you get a nice chunk of potato. So keep that in mind and do it as you'd like. And then I also cut up onion, which I believe you can see. And I cut up some garlic, which you probably won't use. I would suggest to you to probably use 3 large russets to start, to see if you like it. I have 2 large russets and then a couple of the gold. I am going to show you in a minute how we get it started, and let's go. I've panned my dish some, and I'm putting in some butter now. Oh, it's hot, probably too hot. And I'm going to stir up my onions and my garlic, okay? And just let those, tenderize. And they're not, the onions are nice and tender. If you listen, you can hear the onions and garlic sizzling. You may not be able to because you're a little bit hard of hearing. It's just going and getting some nice brown on it. If you want to make this really easy, you don't even need to put onion in it. I've used onion powder many times when I don't have any onion or garlic powder. I use garlic powder too all the time. That's what I like about this recipe is that you don't always have to use the same things. You can use what you have on hand. And, sometimes the batches are just out of this world, super delicious. And sometimes they're just, not quite as good, but they're always good. I think the onions and garlic are about done. I don't want them cooked all the way because they will cook up some more as it's, the soup is just simmering. I'm gonna add chicken stock or chicken broth. I usually add chicken broth. And if you don't have this on hand, no problem. You just put some water in there with some bouillon cubes, chicken I would recommend. And if you don't have that, just use water. But I put that in there, that adds a nice flavor for the soup. It's a nice base to just get it started, better than water. But put in some of this and we'll add our potatoes in 1 minute. I'm really not holding this still. I'm ready to add the potatoes. I have added the broth into there already, but I'm just going to put the potatoes in and let them simmer and simmer and simmer. I don't want the potatoes to be too covered by the broth or the fluid because at some point you're going to want this to thicken up, and so you don't want too much liquid in it. And I will show you about where I've got it. See it? Did I do it right? There we go. And I could probably put a little more in, but again, an excess of liquids just will take it longer to thicken up and it may not end up as thick. I've turned my heat up to about 8 to 9. I want this to start to boil, but sometimes I walk away and forget, so I don't set it up to the high usually. But you can cover this and then have this get to a boil. And then we will just let it simmer and simmer for, probably 30 minutes until they get soft. And, depends on how high your heat is, how big your potatoes are, but let them get soft as they can, or even softer than they will for mashed potatoes. If you've got any leftover ham, as I believe you do, you can use that for your soup. When I don't have leftover ham, I usually buy these. I have these in our refrigerator every day because we use it for breakfast for Mike. I cut it up and all that, but I almost always have this on hand. And then you're just gonna cut your pieces up into, you know, small bite-sized chunks. I don't like them to be too big, but you know, not super small where they're not going to be able to get an actual crisp or a good flavoring of the ham. And what else you can be doing at this time is getting some crafted cheese out. I mean, crafted, shredded cheese out. I, again, always have on some Mexican style cheese because I love so much Mexican stuff. So we use this. If you don't have cheese, that's okay. You don't have to add it. I partly use it as a thickening agent. And what else you can do for a thickening agent is get some flour and milk. And you know how to do that, kind of make a little broth. But if you give this soup enough time, it will thicken on its own. I have my ham cut up. I prefer it to be a little bit smaller. I have a small mouth. And this is what's going on with the potatoes. They're just simmering, starting to get warm. And I, at this point, because I so like spices, I've added garlic. This is when I start adding a lot of my seasonings. And of course, garlic salt. Lowry's is the best.
Start shaking, get shaking. You're making it.
Lowry's seasoned salt.
Get shaking, start shaking. You're making
It turns chicken golden brown.
Start shaking the Lowry's.
One thing you like to add, if you have it, is celery salt. Now you can also cut up celery small and put it in your soup. I don't usually have celery around, but I always have celery seasoning, and it adds a freshness that I think you'll really like. And onion powder, again, I might add a little bit of that, and I for sure will end up adding a lot more garlic powder. But I know with, you know, Jerry's life, she'll be putting less garlic in.
And usually they contain MSG. Now on here it says no MSG, but a lot of times they lie. I just found that out the other day. They lie. And so that MSG gets into your cells and excites your cells with these excitotoxins until the cells explode. This is why you're so addicted to Chinese food. And
we're starting to get a little oil on it. It's looking great. I don't like to let it go into too big of a boil for too long. It just kind of gets a weird scummy thing on top. So at this point, I will turn this down probably to about 4. Let it simmer, and the moisture will reduce, and we will have some nice soft potatoes. I just checked the soup. Potatoes are getting very soft. Again, well, you don't know how much time has passed, but not a lot of time has passed because I did cut them out so small. But I have this, you will not have this, I'm sure, but something you're gonna wanna smash the potatoes down, start smashing them, and kind of, you know, breaking them down and making them smaller. And I just do that, and if you don't have this, but I'm not getting everything broken down at this point. This is just to start it going a little bit faster and breaking down. It's when I'm about ready to. And even here you can see where I got some skin from the gold potatoes, and I will just toss those. Again, you'll probably like to eat them, or maybe, but I don't, so I take them out. And that's it. I just do break it up some, and at this point, it's still at 4. That took about, I have to say, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, just so you know, but I'm gonna turn it down a little bit now to probably 1 or 2, start to let it simmer. Again, I'm adding some more spices. A lot of it has to do with garlic. Something else to keep in mind if you don't have cheese or bouillon or some of the broth, I add milk sometimes to this, my soup, and that adds a nicer, creamier flavor. I've left it alone for a little while, and now I'm coming out and stirring it and continuing to smush it down. keep kind of breaking them down, Stir it, but for the most part, whatever. Now, see, it's got a lot of liquid in it, so I have some time that it's going to have to keep continuing to dissolve. Oh, look, you see, there's more of the skin from the gold, and it just comes right off up into this thing. So it's just going to simmer, continue to thicken. This is where I always get a little like, oh, stressed. It's not going to happen this time, or it won't thicken enough, and it always does. So don't worry, just continue to let it thicken. It's now 5:20, so you know, probably 25 minutes or so. We're getting close. It's been about 8 minutes later than the last time I was here, and the soup is really in a good kind of position. It's thickening up, and it's breaking down, and got some chunks, but a lot of creamy. And so at this point, I'm going to continue or add my ham, and just let that go in, and it will absorb the flavor, and just adds a great flavor. So just throw that. I've just turned it down to low, and I've added the ham, and I'm going to let it simmer. You know, as long, we probably won't eat until 6. It's 5:30. We'll eat at 6. Probably it'll be perfect. In about 20 minutes, I will add some cheese, and I will show you that later. I'm out here about 10 minutes later than I just was, and the soup is looking delicious. Now I need to add the cheese, which I should have already had set up. Dang it, if I were good at this. But I'll just go over and pray that there are scissors in my drawer, and there were. So watch this. I think this will work. I don't know what I'm doing, Nanny, but we're having fun. Okay, so open it up. I am not a measurer, which Nanny, you know, but I am gonna put some in here. Again, it doesn't add a big flavor, but it does thicken it, and it gives it a richness that I really have grown to like compared to when I didn't add something. So I'm gonna let this kind of melt itself in, and we're about ready to eat. Just know I have been adding my seasoning along the way, so I hope you're seasoning to taste. All right, the cheese is in. Last thing I'm going to do is to give it a nice kind of crisp crunch when you eat it is cut up some green onions, and I will add them to the soup for the last probably 8 to 10 minutes or longer if you're not ready to eat. And sometimes I top the soup with them at the very end also before I serve it, because it looks a little bit nice. Soup now is a great consistency. I tend to make mine very thick, probably thicker than, I don't know, most people like. So I'm gonna serve it like this tonight. Probably what you're going for. And if you simmer it a little bit longer, it'll get thicker, and that's really good. Here's the finished project. It looks great in like a green or colored bowl. And what I usually do before I serve it to Mike, and I don't add this to my own, but Mike kind of likes more cheese than I will add some on top. A little bit, put some on top there. Pepper it up pretty well for him. He likes a lot of pepper, which I think you will too. And then I even, yes, throw a couple of greens on top, green onions. And there you go, and it heats up great. Sometimes when you reheat it, you'll want to add some water or milk because it will have gotten thick. But it's great. Let me know how you like it. I love you, Nanny. Bye. How is it?
Just a minute, I'll tell you. Cheesy.
Do you like it cheesy?
Oh my gosh.
Good?